Formula One is about to expose its biggest mistake, just weeks after launching its future. The 50-50 engine, the one designed to redefine the sport, is already under pressure after only a handful of races. Drivers are lifting on straights. Cars are losing power at the worst possible moments. And now, the FIA wants emergency changes before things get worse. But here's the twist that changes everything. The CEO of Formula One and multiple top teams are actively rejecting those changes. This is not a small disagreement. This is a direct clash between the people who write the rules, the people who run the business, and the teams fighting to win. Because if the rules change, some teams lose everything they built. If the rules stay, the problem stays on track. And if no one agrees, Formula One heads into Miami with a system that is already showing cracks. And one race away from turning a technical flaw into a full-blown crisis. At first, it didn't look like failure. It looked like something Formula One has seen before. A new regulation. A new system. A phase where teams are still learning. Because every major change in this sport comes with adaptation. Small issues. Unexpected behavior. Engineers working late, trying to unlock performance. So when the first signs appeared, nobody used the word crisis. Drivers lifting on straights. Energy running out before the end of a lap. Cars behaving differently from one moment to the next. At first, it was explained away. Early phase. Optimization. Data gathering. But then something changed. Because the same issues didn't disappear. They repeated. Race after race. Track after track. And that's when the conversation shifted. Because in Formula One, repetition means one thing. The problem is not temporary. It's built into the system. And internally, that realization hit faster than anyone expected. Not just one team. Not just one driver. Multiple voices, pointing to the same issue. Energy management dominating performance. Drivers thinking about battery levels, more than racing instinct. And moments on track that didn't feel natural. They felt limited. Controlled. Almost artificial. And that's where the real concern begins. Because Formula One is not designed to look controlled. It's designed to look extreme. Unpredictable in the right way. Drivers on the edge, not drivers holding back. But now, holding back has become part of the system. And that changes everything. Because when a driver exits a corner, the instinct is simple. Full throttle. No hesitation. But with this system, that instinct is no longer enough. Now there's calculation. Now there's management. Now there's a system deciding how much performance is actually available. And that gap, between what the driver wants to do, and what the car allows them to do, is where the problem truly lives. Because once that gap appears, the sport starts to feel different. Not slower. Not less advanced. But less pure. And that's exactly what started to worry people inside the paddock. Because this wasn't just about lap time. It was about identity. And once Formula One starts questioning its own identity, the situation is no longer technical. It becomes something much bigger. Expand next block. And this is where the situation stops being about performance and starts becoming a battle for control. Because once everyone inside Formula One understands the problem, the next question becomes unavoidable. Do you fix it, or do you protect what you already built? And that's where the sport begins to split. On one side, the FIA. They see a system that needs intervention. Not later. Now. Because from their perspective, this isn't just inefficient. It's unstable. Drivers dealing with unpredictable energy behavior. Cars reacting differently in similar conditions. Moments on track that are harder to anticipate. And in a sport where everything depends on precision, unpredictability is a risk. So their solution is clear. Reduce the electric impact. Calm the system down. Make the cars more consistent. More predictable. Closer to something drivers can fully trust. But the moment that idea is introduced, everything changes. Because on the other side, there's a completely different priority. Liberty Media. The business side of Formula One. And for them, this is not just a technical correction. It's a potential collapse of the narrative. Because the 50-50 engine was not just designed to work. It was designed to represent something. A new era. A modern identity. A sport aligned with the future of technology. And that vision was sold globally. To manufacturers. To sponsors. To partners who invested based on that promise. So when the FIA says, we need to reduce the electric side, what Liberty hears is something much bigger. We are about to admit this didn't work. And that is a message they are not ready to send. Not this early. Not after building an entire era around it. So their position becomes firm. No radical changes. Adjust details. Fix the surface. But do not touch the core. And just when this tension reaches its peak, there's a third force that complicates everything even more. The teams. Because for them, this is not about philosophy. It's about advantage. Some teams are struggling, trying to understand the system, losing time. For them, change is opportunity, a reset, a way back into the fight. But others have already figured it out. They've optimized energy deployment. They've built performance around these exact limitations. They've turned the complexity into an advantage. And for those teams, any major change is a direct loss, because it removes the edge they worked to create. So they push back, quietly, strategically, support minor adjustments, reject anything that changes the balance too much, delay decisions, control the pace of change. Because every race without major changes is another race where their advantage remains intact. And now, all three sides are locked in place. The FIA pushing for control and stability, Liberty Media protecting the long-term vision. The teams divided between those who need change and those who fear it. And right in the middle of that is Formula One itself, caught between fixing a problem and protecting an idea. And when a sport reaches that point, it's no longer just evolving. It's deciding what it wants to be. And now, everything is building toward the moment that will expose the truth. Not in meetings, not in statements, but on track. Because no matter what is decided behind closed doors, Formula One cannot hide what happens at full speed. And that's why Miami changes everything. Because this is not just another race on the calendar. It's the first real test of whether the sport is still in control or already reacting. If the same issues appear again, drivers lifting on long straights, energy running out at critical moments, cars behaving in ways that don't match instinct, then the narrative collapses instantly. Because at that point, it's no longer a debate. It's evidence. And once something becomes visible to everyone, it can't be managed anymore. It can't be explained away. It has to be fixed. But here's the part that makes this even more intense. Whatever decision is made before Miami, it won't solve everything. It will reveal something. If the changes are small, the problem stays alive, just hidden slightly better. If the changes are big, the consequences appear immediately. Performance shifts, gaps close, advantages disappear. And if nothing changes, then all the pressure that has been building internally explodes publicly. Because the audience will see it, the drivers will feel it, and the questions will become unavoidable. Why wasn't this fixed earlier? Why was this system approved? And who is responsible for what happens next? And that's where the real risk appears. Not just technical failure, reputational damage. Because Formula One depends on one thing above everything else: trust. Trust that the fastest cars are also the most controlled. Trust that the regulations create racing, not limitations. Trust that when something doesn't work, it will be corrected. But right now, that trust is being tested. From inside the paddock, from the drivers, from the fans who are starting to notice that something feels off. And when all those perspectives align, that's when pressure becomes impossible to ignore. Which brings everything back to one final point. This is not just about the 50-50 engine. It's not just about electric power or energy limits. It's about whether Formula One is willing to admit that something fundamental needs to change. Because the longer a problem is protected, the harder it becomes to fix, and the more damage it creates along the way. So when those lights go out in Miami, you won't just be watching a race. You'll be watching a system under pressure, a decision being tested in real time, and a sport trying to prove that it still understands itself. Because if it doesn't, then this isn't just a difficult start to a new era. It's the beginning of a much deeper problem, one that no quick fix can solve, and one that could define Formula One for far longer than anyone expected. And this is where everything comes together, in the way Formula One never wants it to. Because what started as a technical issue has now become a question of credibility. Not just for one team, not just for one decision, but for the entire direction of the sport. Because if this system continues to behave the same way, if drivers keep managing instead of attacking, if races keep feeling controlled instead of chaotic in the right way, then the conclusion becomes impossible to avoid. This wasn't just an imperfect regulation. It was a miscalculation. And that's something Formula One almost never admits. Because admitting it means more than fixing a problem. It means accepting that the biggest project in years did not deliver what it promised. And that's where the real tension lives. Because every decision now carries consequences beyond the track. If they protect the current system, they protect the image, the investment, the narrative that was sold to the world. But they also risk something much more dangerous: letting the problem define the racing. letting the limitation become normal. And once something like that becomes normal, it stops being questioned. It becomes part of the sport, and changing it later becomes even harder. But if they choose to change it now, really change it, then they fix the issue faster. They bring the cars back to something drivers can trust, something fans can understand, something that feels like Formula One again. But at the same time, they expose the flaw. They admit that the 50-50 concept did not work as expected. And that admission carries weight with manufacturers, with sponsors, with every partner that invested in this vision. So this is no longer just a technical correction. It's a strategic decision. Protect the idea or protect the reality. And right now, Formula One is trying to do both, which is why the tension hasn't been resolved. It's being managed, delayed, pushed forward race by race, hoping that small adjustments are enough, hoping that the problem doesn't become too visible. But here's the truth. In Formula One, everything becomes visible eventually. Because the track doesn't hide anything. It exposes it, lap after lap, moment after moment, until one situation, one unexpected loss of power, one critical mistake, forces everyone watching to see the same thing, clearly, at the same time. And when that happens, there is no strategy left. No narrative strong enough to protect it. Only reality. And that leads to the final question. The one that defines everything you've just heard. Not whether Formula One can fix this, but whether it is willing to admit how big the problem really is. Because if it underestimates it, if it delays too long, if it protects the system instead of correcting it, then this won't just be remembered as a difficult start. It will be remembered as the moment the sport chose the wrong direction. And once a direction like that is taken, reversing it becomes the hardest challenge of all.